phase 2, day 15. And it's funny because it kind of hit me. I went for a walk this morning and I've been swollen, like my inflammation, all these things have been like spinning me out, right? So I've also realized, like, so I went for a walk this morning and like I told myself yesterday, I'm like, okay, you need to like just stop because you're obviously something's wrong. Pain is always a sign that something's wrong. So if you're having inflammation, the body's not doing right. Pain, emotional pain, physical pain, anything is just like the body screaming at you. Something's not right. So this morning when I'm on, so I went, okay, I'm trying to change up some things, and I'm like, okay, it's healthier for me. Like sometimes just doing what I'm doing right now, it's driving me to insanity because I'm so focused on doing things that I get. You have to change it up. Like I could spend all my hours doing what I'm doing, and then you're not changing it up and interacting with other people at different times for whatever reason because I'm trying to do this. So that can be a little bit detrimental too. So because the self-talk, depending on how good you are with yourself, is where that can lead to problems. And my irony is that I was attracting people before that triggered me in ways that I realized, and with what I do, I take a lot in and then my self-care, how do you balance that out? So and this is not the thing, I just had to really understand this about myself, that when I get in and interact with other people at times or different things, it's very natural for me to want to be, like I can easily play a role in a chameleon. I've like realized, okay, that's a skill, so I have to recognize that that's a skill. Like you might, like people may have that yourself, and if so, you want to recognize when you change your personalities based on what is coming at you. So that could be in person, right? Everybody has it. Like technically, it's recognizing how good you are at it when you do it and why. And I say that because we do change. Like you're different with your, right? Everybody, you would be different with your mother, to your father, to a sibling, to a friend, to a stranger. Okay, now take those character types. Not even just that. Like you're different at work, then you're different, right? Different circumstances. Okay, now whatever you do for a living, add that in. Well, if you're taking in, and I just so happen to do something right now that when I interact with people at different times is heavy, right? Like it's heavy stuff. Over the years, though, it's always really been because I'm a person that genuinely cares and listens. I've also been through, you know, in my lifetime, right? I've been in and out of hospitals, I've been different things, and I actually listen to people and I talk to them and different things. And then I realized, I take a lot in without realizing that, and that actually takes in an energy, and then I don't have a healthy release. So funny enough, that was coming into my body, but not being released. It did, though, over the years, I guess, if I was working out, that's a physical coming in with an energy, physically putting it out. However, the issue was, I look back and I say, because one of even my other videos, my workouts and my things weren't really hobbies. They were obsessions. Why? Because of the intention behind it. So it's a hobby, it's good. But the intention behind it, what it really is, are you going there, you're feeling great, you're getting it out, you're working out. Yes, there was a lot of that where it's like, but is the underlining thing always about how it's going to transform your body and how you're going to look different? And is that the dialogue that's there? That this is, and if it is, it's fine, just recognize that, and then you want to shift it. Doesn't mean that you don't want to always have that gone either, because it's not bad, right? And this is the thing, this is another confusing thing. It's not bad to want to go, I want to have my best body and feel good. But if you're falling, and goes back to the negative thing, if you're falling apart when something's out of alignment or different things, well, that's a problem, right? So if I'm listening or taking in conversation or doing different things, that takes in an energy. Then if I'm, right, so then if I'm almost self-punishing in a different way, because I realize that comes at you where you care, right? You ever have, and it might be hard to explain to somebody who doesn't deal with interact people, maybe like in a therapy component, right? So it's like a therapist would take in a lot of the energy of their patients and their clients. And that's actually why, like, so as much as I've been mad at doctors and different things, right? Like you see why some of them are like, but the irony is you can't be in a mental health field or a psychology field if you don't properly balance that and aren't empathetic, right? So and that's what part of the educational process that I said, because I'm not a doctor, however, I deal with people in a similar way from that psychology standpoint, in that if you can't be truly empathetic and release that properly and truly be understanding, you're never going to be good enough in your position, because you trigger your patients are going to trigger you. It actually works back and forth, right? And that's why I would say the protective, I would note to the good doctors, you'd want to be careful too in the why you're attracted, and saying that, because the different types of patients will be triggered by you, and if you don't have a proper way to balance that out. But if you also have a thing where it's separate, like, oh, those are, right? If your internal dialogue subconsciously is, oh, those people are those people, right? And generally and that's actually funny why we have so many problems in this kind of system, is so many times the people that are the doctors and the educated ones that are supposed to be helping the people with the mental problems can't understand each other because they haven't lived those types of lives. Well, I kind of lived everything, so that's why I could say that. Kind of going off on a tangent, because it takes in so much into that body that you need to have an understanding and a release. But also getting to the core of that, how you talk to yourself. So I lived my life, and this is going back, being one of those positive people on the outside. That's what I'm raped, I'm abused, I don't say anything. I'm internalizing that. That's where it starts. I'm in a different body. I don't even really realize that I am, right? Like, I'm shut down, but I go to school and I'm everybody's friend. Because that's not all the time. I have it in but what happens, the type of personality I have, I internalize that anger so much that it blows up at a directed thing at different times. That's why in my life I've almost been said I can be a bully to bully when I know, wait, something's wrong, and then it's like direct that energy and I'm gonna come at you. Which is ironically, in 2020, when I got my memory back, started seeing all these people for who they were, I finally went, hold on, and I directed the energy right where it was supposed to go. But the out of character is where a lot of things would shift around. That's what so many doctors don't understand. And so why I was frustrated when I went to the doctors, and then they didn't listen. It goes back to, if you've only read it in a textbook, you haven't actually lived or understood people's brains. And that's a big reason why I'm doing what I'm doing this way, is because I want that understanding of how that brain and that connection and that PTSD is, so it can educate these doctors. And that's part of the process. And I say this going back into, because I'm in phase 2 and talking about this body thing that actually relates though to the overall healing program, right? So there's an actual map of, right, I have, health, wealth, and relationships, and you cycle through that over and over and over and over again, right, on different levels that subdivides things. So it's like dividing your nutrition, movement, inner peace, whatever, right? But we all have that, and we all cycle it at times. Our bodies, you can't be in balance. Like, people are trying to be in balance, internal balance, yes, which is what we're trying to find for peace, but you're not going to be able to be, like, I used to feel like that was a problem because I was a kind of an all or nothing person. Yes, you want to have a life and happy and balanced, but if you really want to go after a goal or a thing, you want to get laser focused to achieve that, because your brain can only think of one thing at once, like it can only have one thought. So so depending on what you want to do, right? So if you want to become like a superstar athlete, well, you're going to have to focus on that, right? If you're going to have all these other distractions and other people not helping you, you're not going to get to your goal. So that's going to depend on what your dream is, and then subdividing it into your goals, right? And then you can get laser focused. Okay, there's that, right? So some people are blessed in their life. They've had that opportunity in their life that they get to do that. They've had enough support or enough help, so their brains can get clearer on that focus. Somebody who's had so much trauma, it could do it for periods of time, but then you're made to believe that you're not good enough. But where the distractions and the things come, it depends on the type of support. So if you have this big dream, right, and you're trying to go at these things, you can become so like, right, and everybody get out of my way. And you could become almost like an asshole if, right, to get, like, because if you're not properly supported, and people can understand that if you shift and change. And I say that because it actually happened to me. Because I went, hold on, like, because nobody's understanding me, that's why I had to, like, and it just happened, like, take that extreme measure, because I was always really in the space of pleasing other people. Why? Because I lived like this positive, right? Like this, I started reading motivational books when I was 13, right? And then I started going to these network marketing conferences. I think 15, but I probably was younger than that. I mean, yeah, actually it was. I would have been maybe, yeah, with my dad or whatever, because said to me, I made Tony Robbins like a father figure. I've never met or spoke to Tony Robbins in my life, but I made him like a father figure when I was 13. So it could have been from the books or the speech. I don't remember exactly, but I was like, I what he stood for, how he spoke, and I went, that's like, okay, I see that. That makes sense. Like, and I want to improve myself and I want to be that way. Well, I also adapted then this mentality of how to win friends and influence people, how to do. So my external is always pleasing other people because I can shift and grow. Why? Because my self-worth at the core was so low though, that if I'm not, right, doing these things, then there's something wrong. Okay, well now my internal dialogue though is dark. I had to realize that way, like, because of different things and shifting. And then you feel like something's wrong with you, but you don't realize that. And I say dark, like lots of different things. I had to go into my core. This goes back to a lot of like where like different things come from. So in my real life, right, I'm like, and it wouldn't have, I love Halloween. I love, like, shit doesn't freak me out. Like some people it does, but like blood, guts, gore, costumes, things like that. Like, but I don't live like a life that goes and does any of these things. I'm a person who, I can be around anything. I can do anything. I don't judge people. I'm very whatever, but I'm also like a super prude, but I want to like do things and live life. So Halloween would come around and I'm decorating the house. I'm doing all the things, but that's pretty much it, right? I worked in, you know, a different place. Like I would go anywhere, do anything. Like if somebody, like I know so many people that come from all different worlds. Like in my lifetime, like I've met, right? I used to work at a concert hall. So I know different things, but I didn't go into that world. Like I never actually crossed over, went into people's worlds, but the dialogues and the things would be there if I was honest with myself internally, because like that's what I had to realize. I'm like there, I'm working, I'm on the outside of it, I'm not judging it, but my internal dialogue was very dark. But coming from this past, or positive, because that's what I have to, right? Because really it's the fear of being judged by other people. We say it's not, right? It doesn't mean everyone. I just realized I'm trying to please all the wrong people for all the wrong reasons. Generally, that can be the people that are closest to us without recognizing it. And that's where mental health comes from. You're surrounding your people when you're not in line and authentic, and you're feeling like you have to keep up with this character. So this goes with character. We all have different characters, and depending on the type of life we've had when we're in different roles. So that's actually part of the teaching and the healing, is helping people. I did this to myself first in recognizing, and this is where it made me more creative because I had to go inward. So going back to this, like Halloween, I see things in cartoons, and then that's a creative. I can't draw, so luckily I have a friend who's like, okay, I'll help you out here, and I'll do I'm like, oh, I see myself as like, you know, whatever, an evil queen. I see myself as a zombie. I see myself here. Okay, then let's turn that into a story. Then I labeled those things as my characters, like internally. Okay, what's that character doing? Now I'm giving them names. Now I'm giving them things. We all have that in us when we're playing these different things. When does it come out? Why? And what's that character doing? And the character at my core and my soul, I had to see was so, right? Because I judged myself as not being good. I realized when I finally got my memory back and looked at my life, went, wow, it really is good. I might have done shitty things. That's what makes me human. Why did I do those things? Have I worked through those things? Have I honestly repented and actually done something about it? Like to fix it? Does it need to be fixed? Is there a thing of forgive it? If it does, that's another thing. You can't move on, right? There's so many people, like I know, and this is narcissists. I had and I'm not going to say who, but a conversation with somebody and listening to them talk, the damage they've done to my life personally, and I have to just, goes back to the internal and external, what you can and can't say for different reasons. There's times where I can and times where I can't. I'm not going to get into why. But this person is so narcissistic, did so much damage to my life personally, let alone the damage I know they've done to other people's lives. And they go, yeah, I sleep well at night. I'm like, because you can't change the opinion of a narcissist or different things. But that's the problem. So you have to understand yourself. And you have to really look at yourself and go, have I done really enough? And am I being brutally honest that I will be comfortable moving to the next thing, Because the irony is when things happen in the universe that punish and we're not clear on that dialogue or why, it actually is a sign. It's like pain, until we wake up to realize something needs to change. And that's when I went back into this past over and over and over again until I can clear the layers. And that's actually what opened up my brain. So coming back this morning, right, I was this positive, and then finally, like, brutal honesty, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try something different. 2.5 years into this project this way. I was like 4 years into what I'm doing, but it's shifted. That's what I said. 4 years into, or over, yeah, June 2019. But then going back to self-study, which goes back to when I was 13. So when I'm piecing it together, which goes back to my life, but the actual, what I've been working on 4 years, 2.5 years, that switch, and then into something else. So that's where I say that. Because that shift from having this positive into brutal honesty, go into further darkness, go into like, what the fuck is going on here? Because that's the difference of most programs and most things and most whatever. It's like, here's, all right, we're the things we're supposed to be doing and what we're supposed to do. Like the societies, the things. No. What if we came back to brutal honesty to the core of everything? You can't have positive without negative. You cannot have light without darkness. As I actually saw, it was an amazing clip, something saying like the day actually starts at midnight. It's dark. It's not light. So you have to actually live through the darkness first to get to the light. And most people aren't willing to go really into the darkness to be so brutally honest to get, and that's how you actually have to clear the shit, literally shred the shit, the toxins, the stuff out of the body. And that's spirit, the 3 brains here, right? Head, heart, and guts. Clearing it out. Because when so many people have problems with their stomach and intestinal issues and different things, blah, 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 the majority of our serotonin, our happy, is mean in our intestines. And a lot of times too, it is, you don't have guts, and that's not just like guts of you're not going to clear shit. And I say that a lot of people will internalize because they're not living authentically. That will actually stay in the body because you're holding so much in, which will actually manifest itself into problems. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just do everything, like, which is difficult. It's like, how do you get over fear? Fear the fear and do it anyway, right? Like an argument to save my life, I didn't have a choice, live or die. I was put into that position. I'm not going to get into how many times in my life, but in a very different way where I wanted to live. More recently, where nobody was letting me do that. And externally, people wouldn't understand that or see that. It would look different. Well, that has to do with control and different things. And most people don't recognize how many people around them are actually controlling them. Well, if you don't have control of yourself, everybody else will be controlling you. It goes back to responsibility. I can't blame anyone else. That's my fault. Doesn't matter. All the abuse, all the things, all the stuff, right? It's still everybody else's fault. At the end of the day, if I don't take fucking responsibility and say, I need to learn how to control my mind. I need to be my own best friend. I need to wake up in a day and go, this is how you're going to treat yourself. The reason I don't know how to I can be great in some areas and not great in other areas. Okay, the lack of education. All right, well, I've been self-taught in so many different ways. Isn't it my responsibility to learn that next? Because it occurred to me, I don't know how to be happy. That's my underlining brutal honesty. I know how to appear to look happy. I don't know how to be happy. I've been in a depression pretty much my whole life. Depression is anger turned inward. I've been in a depression pretty much my whole life. It hit a massive clinical depression where it shut me down physically. I was just a high functioning person in a depression because I was able to switch characters until I couldn't. And that's where so much, and then that has led back to this. So going back to my walk and the conversations and the internal dialogue I hear. Funny, it pops up like I never met or spoke to Tony Robbins, but when you put people in your mind, and this goes back to who you choose to listen to. So if I'm choosing to listen to leaders like that guide me properly, it's almost like you see them talking to you. Almost make them your, when you can't do it for yourself, if you can't be that person, what would they say to you? How would they guide you? So if he's saying to me, Candice, well, that doesn't make sense, right? Like you've been in this negative now, to be honest, which is right. right? The good for you that you've been honest, but when are you going to start being nicer to yourself? Because if you're just constantly this pattern of shitting on yourself and recognize, right, I feel fat, I feel this, I feel that, instead of changing that internal dialogue to, okay, this is where you're at, there's a warning sign here, but what have you been doing? Why are you hurting yourself? Why aren't you being kinder to yourself? Why are you continuously punishing yourself? How many years are we going to go through this? 2.5 years or whatever it is in this punishment phase because you've been so angry. Okay, I get that you've been angry. You've been allowed to be angry. All right, it's justified. Now when are you going to change it around and learn how to be happy? You needed to get it out, that's right. But when are you going to change this internal dialogue? So when you pick somebody, that's why it's so important to choose who gets in your head in the mentorships and believing what they would say. Because if you haven't been surrounded in your life with people that have given you that good internal dialogue, so for me, like Tony popping up, if it was, you know, after this clear, like somebody else, like I'm not gonna rate it, could an ex-husband, an ex-boyfriend, you know, a friend that hasn't been good. If it's their dialogue that comes up, it could be a negative one. Like my past, like I grew up from a very low self-worth. If it was my stepfather's dialogue, it would be mind fucking me into something else, right? So because of my abuse, like, and we all kind of have, that's why it's so important, the people that we have around. And so many times we let our family members abuse us, or we abuse our family members. Why? Because they have this label. Oh, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're just allowed to shit on me and make me feel like crap. No, that's where the problem is, the boundaries. And people can't get to their best self if they're still allowing those people because of a title, especially family, fuck them up. That's not acceptable. So it's our responsibility to know ourselves first. And in my case, I had to take extreme measures to do that, to prove this I'm right, but I guess I have to turn that around, right? Candace, you've been inflamed, you're not feeling good, but like, look at, you know, I get to have this body that takes me outside. I get to have the opportunity to you know, learn to love it. I'm still young, right? Where I get the opportunity to fill in the blank. Like, you got to change that dialogue. Otherwise, what? I've had a life of depression and it just leads to nothing. I never get to be happy. Well, this is a choice, right? So depression is real. I've been in it pretty much my whole life. Massive clinical one that's shut me down, right? But now that it's like, okay, you went into this darkness. You went into this void. You found your demons. You found the stuff. Okay, well, now what? Now what? You're just going to stay there? That's a choice. Then I'd be a fucking hypocrite.